There's no one in the business harder to hit than Canelo right now. He learned something from Floyd Mayweather.
Floyd's good at the circus, though. When he was Pretty Boy Floyd, nobody cared. When he became Money Mayweather, everybody cared.
Muhammad Ali was the greatest, yes, a great cultural figure, a great boxer for his era. I think Mike Tyson was the greatest freak that's ever existed.
The Klitschko brothers, the most boring guys in the history of the sport. Fighting crosses all cultural and language barriers and shit.
Yeah.
No matter what color you are, what country you come from, what language you speak, we're human beings and fighting's in our DNA. When you really think about all the most famous guys, think about Michael Jordan, how big he is. You know, people know Michael Jordan in some parts of the world. Gretzky, here and there. You think of all the greats. Think about who are really well-known everywhere, all over the planet, and worshipped. Guys like Tyson. You know what I mean?
Weird?
Muhammad Ali.
You know what's
Bruce
weird?
Lee.
Vladimir Klitschko, that mother gets on a plane, nobody even pays attention to him.
Right.
I was on a plane with him, and my friend was like, "Who's that fucking giant?" I go, "Dude, that's the heavyweight boxing champion of the world." He goes, "The heavyweight boxing champion's a white guy?" I go, "Yeah, it's a white Russian guy. He's a doctor. He's like a professor and shit. It's Vladimir Klitschko. He's like a brilliant guy. He plays chess and shit. Dude is playing chess on his iPad while he's sitting
The
there on the
most
plane."
boring guys in the history of the sport. The Klitschko brothers drive me crazy, man. Jab, jab, hold. Jab, jab, hold. Jab, hold. Right hand. Fuck fight, man. I'll put you to sleep. So me and Elliot and I think Craig Borsari are in Beverly Hills, right? I talk so much shit about the Klitschko brothers all the time, man. All I do is hammer these guys. They're boring. They suck. They're this, they're that. So there's this little restaurant in Beverly Hills called El Pastel, and it's literally tiny, but it's badass, great food, everything else. So we go there for lunch one day, walk into the restaurant. Both the Klitschko brothers are sitting right there.
No.
And I walk in and they both look at me. I'm like, oh. Both the Klitschko brothers are in here, right? So I said, the lady says, "Would you like to eat inside or out?" I said, "I'll eat outside, thank you." So she goes outside. I tell Elliot, I go, both the Klitschko brothers are in there, and they're both staring at me. I said, "I'm probably going to get my ass whooped today." I said, "But don't worry, it'll be boring. They'll jab and hold me for about 20 minutes over on the corner here." So then they both get up and they walk outside and they walk by our table and they were looking at me, but they didn't say a word. They didn't say anything to me, you know?
Do you think they knew that?
I don't know. I don't know if they did or didn't, but you know, when somebody talks enough shit about you, you end up hearing it eventually.
Well, also they were kickboxers.
Yeah, I knew that.
So they were martial artists. So they probably watched the UFC anyway. I mean, it only makes sense that they do.
Floyd Mayweather. He grew up boxing. His dad, who was a world-class fighter, and his uncle, Roger, was the Black Mamba. I mean, Roger Mayweather was man back in the 80s. To see those two guys training him, that is gigantic. To grown up in that environment, always been around boxing. If you go back to the early parts of his career and you watch when he was Pretty Boy Floyd, he was a much more aggressive fighter and he would put himself in danger much more. And then when he became Money Mayweather, like as it got later and later in his life, he just got so much more brilliant defensively.
Floyd's good at the circus, though. You know, when Floyd had the circus, you know, people weren't as interested. He really took it to another level. When he was Pretty Boy Floyd, nobody cared. When he became Money Mayweather, everybody cared.
He's a wizard. When you watch the Canelo fight, I've watched the Canelo fight at least 3 times. And when you watch him stand in front of Canelo throws a left, he's over here, he throws a right, he's over here. Pop, take that jab with you. Oh, and I'm back here now. And Canelo is like just whiffing, just throwing punches. You can see the look in his face like, God damn it, I'm in here with a master. This is a master boxer and I'm learning a lesson here. He just became this defensive wizard to the point where you'd see world-class fighters like Sugar Shane Mosley who did tag him. Other than that, once he recovered, he didn't really know what to do with Floyd. Just had the answers to his style. He had figured him out.
Floyd's hands were so bad it looked like he was going to have to retire at one point.
Yeah, what did he wind up doing about
He
that?
got
Did
some,
he get some
crazy,
surgery?
yeah, he got some crazy good surgeon.
He's got little tiny hands.
Yeah,
it's weird.
He does. Well, he's a tiny guy.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who's ever met Floyd on TV, everybody looks big. He's tiny.
There's no one in the business harder to hit than Canelo right now. He learned something from Floyd Mayweather. Floyd didn't hit hard enough to really give him a real ass whooping or really hurt him and punish him and have him in real trouble, but he boxed him up. But then if you watch Canelo, because Floyd was impossible to hit, and I think Canelo was like, he thought he was going to be able to hit him. And then he realized somewhere in the fight, like, this guy knows everything I'm going to do long before I do it. Like, my language, the way I'm speaking and with boxing is so slow. He's just like, he's just many steps ahead. But then you watch Canelo now, his head movement's phenomenal. And that's not indicative of a classic Mexican boxer. He's not that guy. He's so skilled. He got the rub. That's what we call it. When a great fighter fights another great fighter, they learn something. You learn something from the higher levels. Like when you get beat by a guy, you get that rub. You see a lot of times a guy will come out of a fight with a great fight. He might have lost, but then the next fight you see like, oh, he recognizes the higher frequencies, the higher RPMs.
After some fight, I ran Barkley. The guy asked him, said, so if you weren't fighting, what would you be doing? He said, I'd be robbing your house right now. You know? And those dudes were fucking serious. The guys who fight were put on this fucking earth. If they weren't fighting, they'd be fucking some shit up somewhere. Me and Mike Tyson have talked about this for hours. For fucking hours about it. He talks about what he would have been doing if he didn't fucking, first of all, he didn't hook up with Cuss. And he didn't go up there, and he said, Cuss broke me down as a fucking human being and then built me back up. And he said, I honestly, truly believe that me and him were put together because he's the only one that could have fucking done it. Because let me tell you what I would have been doing if I didn't meet Cuss and I didn't get into boxing.
Yeah, he had so much respect for that guy as a trainer and so much respect for him as a father figure that it like inspired him to greatness. It inspired him to focus 100% on pleasing that guy because that was the first guy to really show him love and to really show him respect and to have faith in him. And then under him, all of a sudden, all these great things are happening, all this success is happening. So it reinforced his love for him.
And he talked about how much anger he had inside of him at that time. He had a lot of anger that needed to be,
expressed.
Yes.
I don't give a about Joe Louis. Muhammad Ali was the greatest, yes, a great cultural figure, a great boxer for his era. I think Mike Tyson was the greatest freak that's ever existed. I don't think there's ever been anybody like that.
I agree.
The Marvis Frazier fight, you remember that fight?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
That was as close to a murder as you could watch on television.
Dude, when you start to watch the old fights of Tyson coming up, there's guys that he just murdered. Right?
Frank Bruno fight, just clubbed him.
And when I was first coming up in boxing, right, there was a gym called Golden Gloves. And Golden Gloves was the first gym that I worked out of in Vegas. And they used to shut the place down for Mike when Mike would come in. So he'd come in and train. There'd be 50 brand new cars that would pull in the park. It was great. Dude, it was craziness. The aura that surrounded Tyson at that time and just all the crazy shit that went on. But
he had tigers.
Everlast made a special bag for him. So they'd come in and take down the bags in the gym, the real bags, and they'd put up these special bags that were this big. They were just massive. You couldn't put your arms around them, right? When he would hit a regular bag that you would buy, you know when you break a firecracker in half? That's what the bag would look like when he would hit it. The thing would snap in half this way and come back this way. The power that this guy had when he punched, you had to be there to see it in person to really believe it. Like you said, the combinations you see him throwing on the bag, and just when you saw it in person, you were just like, what the?
God, I love to see that.
He just called me today, but every time he asked me to do him a favor, I'm like, dude, I'd do anything.
Isn't it weird when Mike Tyson calls you?
Yeah.
Do you look at your phone and go, holy shit, Mike Tyson's calling you?
Dude, Tyson is my favorite all time. I love Mike Tyson.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite all-time fighters as well. There was nothing like a Tyson fight.
Yeah, exactly.
They were different. There were different experiences.
So true.
When you saw him fight somebody, like, Jesus Christ, what is Tony Tubbs going to do to him?
How about when you're watching, I don't give a if you were there live, which I was very lucky that I was able to do that, go to a few Mike Tyson fights live when he fought. Or if you were sitting at home watching TV, as soon as they showed him on camera walking out, you just got the goosebumps and went, oh my God.
He was so terrifying. I love that scene in the movie Tyson where he talks about what's going through his mind. All his insecurities go away by the time he gets to the ring. That is such a great, the way he's talking through it there. I'm a god. I'm indestructible.
You watch a Tyson documentary.
Yeah.
It's awesome. You're in awe.
Yeah, it was a completely different cultural experience than like the Muhammad Ali era must have been. Because the Muhammad Ali thing was like, Muhammad Ali was different because he was so much more admirable as a human being. Like what he did was like, during the Vietnam War, he said, you know what, man, why are we going to war? Why are you sending me to war? Well, I don't want to kill no Viet Cong. Right. No Viet Cong never did anything. And then everybody in America was like, yeah, what the fuck is going on? What are you doing? And then they they made a martyr out of him by taking his career away for 3 years. So when you see like Muhammad Ali, you see a different thing. You see like a troubled time, the Nixon administration, and people were down on the government, and the Vietnam War was so unpopular. When you see Mike Tyson, you just saw destruction. It was a completely different experience.
I agree.
It's like he was like Sonny Liston on meth.
Yep.
It was like Sonny Liston, but moving 100 miles an hour, and there was no Muhammad Ali to stop him. There was no Muhammad Ali to, no young brash kid to dethrone him with boxing.